Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Press Playbook, where we bring on a new BAM team member each week to highlight the rad placements they're getting for some of their clients. I'm Kendall, I'm your host, and this week we have on Courtney, who recently got her client a placement in Fast Company. Courtney, welcome.
Thank you, Kendall.
Very excited to have you here. Let's just dive right in. Why don't you start with just giving us a brief background about you and your role at BAM?
Sure. I have been at BAM for 7, going on 8 years now. I've been here for what feels like ever. I love it. I am a senior account director working directly with clients on media placements, doing what I love.
I love that. We've known each other for a very long time.
Yes.
It's always fun to see how things have grown over the last few years. Why don't we jump in to talking about your client? So tell us a little bit about them. Who are they and what's their story?
Okay. Memory Air. It's a new client. They are launching a new product. It's founded by a neuroscientist out of UC Irvine who has been studying the relationship between smell and your memory for the past 16 years. It's very interesting. The premise is that if you can smell better, you can remember better. And he's launching a device that will help people do this.
That's very interesting, and I would want to try that. I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm definitely drinking Kool-Aid.
if I could get something about Christmas, if I could bottle that smell and bring all the good memories, holidays, I would do that. So, what was the news or hook that you guys highlighted?
So we wanted to do an official launch, making news out of a new product. So the options were tough because product placements aren't easy to get unless you have new research, unless you have a partnership or funding, and we didn't have any of that. So we decided to take the design hook, where we knew there was interesting information about how this was all designed, and combined with the research made for a good story. So we put together some options where they could interview our neuroscientist, they could interview the design lead, and then hopefully have everything that they needed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And talking a little bit more about the people that you pulled in, let's go into that actual pitch. So, what did it say, and what do you think made that pitch stand out compared to other products or companies?
Yeah, so we went after Mark Wilson over at Fast Company. We knew that was going to be our target first. And so key points in our pitch were going to be, Mark, this is exclusive to you. So he knew that this was special. We were treating him special. And then he is the global design editor. So really emphasizing the design behind it all. What does he like to write about? What's cool, quirky, unheard of in the design world, and how can we present that to him in a way that would be appealing? And so we broke it down. How does the science fuse with the creation of the device? And it was right up his alley.
And when it comes to Mark, was this somebody that you have had an existing relationship with before? Is this somebody that you knew? And if it wasn't, how did that kind of work? How did you really build that relationship? Obviously, you pitched him, but was this somebody you knew?
I have known of Mark forever because he is just a big writer in the space, but I've never been able to work with him before. And so I was really excited when I did have finally some news that would be right up his alley. Working with him was easy. Like a lot of our pitches, it's going to be a cold outreach unless you have that relationship, but creating that pitch to make it so that he has to open it. He sees that subject line and says, this is a perfect fit for me. It makes it a lot easier.
Totally. We hear that all the time too. We don't want a ton of back and forth. Speaking of back and forth, what was it like after that pitch? Was there a lot of back and forth? I mean, I know a lot of BAM folks are very succinct with their pitches. You guys get the information that they need. What was it like post pitch? What was that process?
So he wanted to reiterate the exclusivity, which is totally normal for reporters. They want to make sure that it is truly exclusive. So no problem. We gave that to him. some back and forth on assets. He wanted to make sure that they had the photos that he would need for a story. That's a make or break it for him when we're doing something that's such a visual piece. And finalizing those spokespeople. We had offered those two people. We just wanted to confirm with him, hey, do you need to speak with both? What will that look like? Will it be 1 or 2 interviews? But it was pretty straightforward.
Amazing. For founders, are there any inside tips that you can share on how to approach reporters like you guys did for people who are less experienced? Any just snippets?
Yeah. If you have a big piece of news, use that exclusive tactic. Make it clear to them this is for you. We want to work with you on this story. Give them a ballpark timeline so that they know what they're working with, and then give them all of the information they need up front, but make your pitch succinct still. So tell them why this is interesting, and then say, and I've attached a press release with more information, and here's a link to a TED Talk with more information, and here's a Google Drive with all of the visual assets you need.
With the photos, was that something you would typically wait till they ask you for, or did you guys give those up front in like a media kit or something like that?
We had given one up front just so that he could see what the product looked like. And then once he expressed interest, we gave him that link to the Google Drive.
And this is another thing with the pitch. I hear this a lot. Some reporters are very particular on format. With something like this, where you're trying to give a lot of information, but keeping it very short and succinct, do you just, this may seem like a simple question, but this does help. Do you just do paragraphs? Do you do visual elements like bullet points? How do you approach something like that where there's just so much and you're trying to keep it short and digestible?
Yes. I am a huge fan of bullet points. All of my pitches have bullet points. It's a great way to keep it short. And then, like I said, trying to organize it where below my signature, you can find more information. So they're not overwhelmed with a huge pitch right up front. And then within those bullet points, you might even go through and say, and here are the 5 things that you need to know that I can offer you about this story. And you're going through all of the assets you have, the spokespeople you have. That way it's short and sweet.
I love that. We love short and sweet around here. So let's dive into post-pitch. Once the story went live, what kind of impact did it have for your client?
Yeah. First of all, it's their first piece of coverage for the device. So great to legitimize the company and say, look, we got someone like Fast Company to write about a health tech device with research and science-backed information in it. It just gives them a lot of credibility. And then as a result, he linked our client, which we love when they do that. And so they did see a little bump in website traffic, which always helps them.
I love that. I love when you can see tangible results quickly. That's very nice.
Yeah.
So our last little part here are just general takeaways, lessons for founders. We have a lot of founders who are going to listen to this, trying to replicate and take tangible takeaways away from you guys. So first thing I'm kind of curious about, and you may have touched on this in the last few minutes, but if you could give one piece of advice to a founder looking to land press, what would that be?
Be patient. It's not easy to get a story like that, or in general, just to get the attention of someone in the media. It can take a week's worth of follow-ups. It can take reaching out to 5 different people about an exclusive. It could be 3 months after you send that initial pitch, that person finally gets back to you. So be patient. Don't expect everyone to come back to you right away with interest.
What was that timeline like? I'm curious now that you say that, from pitch to publish.
We had a pretty tight timeline for this one that worked out. But when you consider the background work that went into it, I would say is about 6 weeks from the time we first met the client, learned everything we needed to know, wrote the press release, pitched our targets, finally heard back from Mark, got the interviews confirmed, and then about 2 weeks after those interviews, the story went live.
That is pretty fast from pitch to publish. Before that is where it's coming in
No.
where you guys are coming in strong. So, Courtney, let's give one last tip here. What's something only publicists know that you would want to pass along to founders? What's one secret sauce?
Okay, my secret sauce would be the subject line. Put the name of the reporter in the subject line, just gets their attention. It lets them know that you are thinking of them, and it's not going to get lost in marketing or sales. They just know that pitch for this person.
I love that. Personalize, 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 personalize. Well, Courtney, thank you for joining us. Loved having you on, loved seeing you. For everybody watching, we release these weekly, so stay tuned next week for another client placement.
Thank you, Kendall.
Bye.
Bye.